I hit the button. Oh, I think it's working. All right.
Broadcasting the boisterous part of the fastest game in the world. So strap on your lids and lace them up, Rook. You're listening to the BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast. Take a laugh.
Ever. Oh yeah.
There we go.
Yeah, Captain, that's a hell of a present. He's Justin. I'm Jay. That is our brand new intro. That's why we've been gone for so many weeks. Is we were working on that intro. You heard it. It's the BarnChirpers. You can follow us. You can Instagram, Threads at BarnChirpersPod. On the internet, at BarnChirpersPod. You will find us, Captain. That is a wonderful, wonderful present. I love everything about that.
It perfectly suits us, I feel.
For sure. Yeah, 100%. If I didn't know any better, I would have said, "Oh, did Blink give us a how much did we pay for Blink to do that intro for us?"
Right. So
it came from all the ad sales from doing this show naturally.
Right. Clearly.
Yeah.
Look, we don't have a lot of time to mess around because we're late.
We're way late.
But it is worth noting that both of us got Florida correct, although each of us had Florida in 7. We both got Dallas wrong because we both had Dallas in 7.
Gosh, what a letdown. Yeah, so obviously if you're watching us now, you know that the first 2 games of the Stanley Cup Final have already been played. Scheduling issues. We were trying to have one of our friends on. Their schedule is just a little bit hectic, though, so it didn't work out, but we really wanted to have our guest on. But maybe after the Cup is over, they'll be able to come on, hopefully. Fingers crossed. But anyway, so we are 2 games behind, but let's jump back. Justin, I want to ask you, how upset are you at the Dallas Stars for blowing it in the Western Conference Finals?
Very. Because
they were your pick from the beginning of the league, beginning of the year.
And so, like, in the first 4 games of the series, they looked pretty good. And, especially the 2 games that they won, they looked great. And it just, the air came out, the wheels fell off all at the right time. Otter looked like garbage, like
absolute trash.
It went from looking like the best team in the league to a dumpster fire in a matter of 3 games.
Whatever game that was, 3 goals off of 10 shots or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, are you kidding me? Are you that kidding me? What is wrong with you? I mean, essentially, Edmonton gentlemen sweeped them. Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously, it was kind of that reverse sweep because Edmonton didn't win initially. But, yeah, man, I'm so disappointed in that squad because it just seemed like those first 2 games, like you said, it was like, oh, okay, yeah. I mean, this is going to be a good series, but Dallas seemingly clearly has the upper hand. The better squad on paper and on the ice. Those first couple games, like, oh man, yeah, 5 or 6 maybe this could be done. The better goaltender on paper.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, man, the guys didn't show up. Pavelski didn't show up. Jamie Benn of all people showed up and made his contract worth, showed that he's worth his, that money, Yeah, I mean, again, we're not going to spend too much time on this, but truly such a letdown in my eyes. And I mean, and we'll get to this obviously when we talk about the Stanley Cup Final now. Edmonton showed up, their depth showed up finally in this playoffs. Guys like Philip Broberg. Who the hell is Philip Broberg? I don't remember his first name, but Holloway, he showed up, got a couple of key goals. Ekholm showed up. And that was one of my biggest things is Evan Bouchard. Like, I don't know what Dallas was thinking, but they left him alone so many times and he scored so many timely goals as well. So, yeah, I'm just disappointed in you, Dallas Stars. I'm really, really disappointed.
I'd like to take this time to point out that McDavid hasn't even been the driver. Like,
no,
I mean, I don't want to say he's ghost, because if you watch the games, he's playing really well. He's just not getting on the board. He's getting shut down so far in Florida, and we'll get there. But like, it's interesting to see that Dry is putting up points, at where you think he would. But like you said, it's the depth, really, especially against the Stars, that really drove it home for Edmonton. So, hats off to him. Hats off to that third and fourth line when you have two of the arguably best players in the league. It's insane.
That's how you win cups, is the third and fourth line, because the top two lines generally cancel each other out. It's those key goals in clutch moments from third and fourth line guys. You look at every single team, every single year. Yeah, your superstars are going to score and they're going to make plays, but it's those third and fourth line guys that win championships. So, but we'll put a pin in that. And we'll talk about that when we get to the Florida series. Definitely laughing at the New York Rangers. No, listen, I'm not going to be that guy and take back the things that I said. I did say that I thought that they were a good team, but clearly Florida was better. Obviously, Florida was better. And wouldn't you know it, the New York Rangers, we can't go a show without talking about this. The Rangers, Toronto Maple Leafed themselves, because the guys that were supposed to show up, the guys that get paid the big bucks and that are supposed to put points on the board, they were ghost. Absolutely ghost. I'm talking about you, Mika Zibanejad. I'm talking about you, Breadman. I'm talking about you, Chris Kreider, even though he scored that hat trick that one game. But that was in the Carolina series. Just kidding.
Yeah, man.
Doing anything either. Yeah. So,
yep.
Their key guys didn't show up. But you know who did show up, Justin? The guy that we've been chirping for a long time on the show, Alexis Lafreniere, showed up for the New York Rangers. And I have a little stat for you, Justin. Okay.
Uh-oh.
I have a little stat upline. Yeah. Okay. So obviously I just mentioned Alexis Lafreniere, but I'm going to give you a couple other contracts. Okay. You ready for this, Justin? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So 10.9, 11.5, 11, 13.25. Okay. That's a lot of money. That's what, $45 million or so?
At least, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Alexis Lafreniere, 2.3 is his contract. Okay. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm going to give you this next stat, Justin. The previous 4 contracts that I mentioned, do you know who those guys are?
I mean, it's got to be, Bread and Mika and Kreider and who's.
No, it's not actually. It's the Toronto Maple Leafs top 4.
Oh.
William Nylander, John Tavares, and Austin Mustache Matthews. Do you know how many points those guys scored in the playoffs combined?
How many?
12. You know how many points that Alexis Lafreniere scored in the playoffs?
Uh-oh. How many?
14. So Alexis Lafreniere scored 2 more points by himself than the entire top 4 of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's why the Maple Leafs suck. And I'll say it again. You suck, Toronto Maple Leafs. You suck.
More on that on the other end, because a certain somebody may have been hired by a certain team. So we'll talk about that too.
I also want to point this out about Alexis Lafreniere. In his career playoffs, 43 games played, 10 goals, 13 assists, 23 points, -1. About a half point a game pace. But until up to this year, he wasn't playing first line minutes. He's been given a chance in this playoff. So I want to mention that because the ever famous Mustache Matthews, 55 games played, 23 goals, 25 assists, 48 points +2 in his career in the playoffs. So you're telling me a guy who's only had 1 opportunity at first line minutes has almost half of your points in his career playoffs? Who deserves the money? That's all I'm saying. Anyway, I had to do it. I had to do it because it was an interesting stat. But just to kind of close out the Rangers, I mean, hey, obviously Florida was a better team. Again, I still gave them their props. I really thought they were a good team. They just ran into a better team. And, hey, their top guys didn't show up. I mean, Shesterkin kept it from being a sweep, truly. There's no reason that the Reg should have won any game against the Florida Panthers, truly. except Shesterkin goalied them. That's the only reason why they hung around. Hey, it is what it is. Obviously, my team got blown out. They got swept. So whatever.
So I do want to say this, and this will kind of lead us into the Stanley Cup conversation. I do feel like a lot of people either haven't watched the Panthers or are still somehow undervaluing what they are on the ice, because a lot of people pick the Rangers, and it's like, I get it, but also the Panthers are good. Like, it's not just like last year they kind of got in by the skin of their teeth, and like they caught fire at the right time. Bob heated up again. It all kind of lined together. But that same team was together this year and has looked infinitely better than last year's team, and they're healthy. Dude, like, you cannot discount this Panthers team. They are rock solid, and they're disciplined. There is some grit and dirtiness to the way they play. I'll say, admit that. I'll say that they get away with some dirty play, but I don't think most of it isn't like, like it's not Trouba throwing bows. It's not, Cousins is kind of shells, but either Cousins is hurt or he's just not getting minutes.
I think he's just been scratched.
Yeah, because I haven't seen him in either game in the final yet. So don't discount this Panthers team. This isn't a shock how well they're playing. Like, if you've seen them at all this year, this is what they do.
And like you mentioned again, so the line is a little bit moved forward. The threshold, if you will, in the playoffs is moved a little bit forward for what you can get away with, because it's especially the finals now, right? You're getting deep in the playoffs. But yeah, Florida's a gritty team. They're going to get in your face. They're going to face wash you. They're going to, they're going to cross check you in the back, and you give it right back to them. You know what I mean? That's what happened in the Boston series way back in the first round. What is so great about this Panthers team, and now that we're essentially on the Cup final to talk about it, and why, when I'm going to bring back Edmonton when we get to that, but that pin that I talked about of Edmonton's depth showing up in the Western Conference Finals, and how it's an entirely different team that Edmonton is right now in this Stanley Cup Finals thus far. But what makes Florida so good is that every single guy, even if they're a skill guy, I'm talking about your Matthew Tkachuks, your Barkovs, your Reinhardts, your Bennetts, every single guy gets the puck and they dump it in and they chase. And when they chase, and we talked about this on the show before, they go in there and they're going to hit you and they're going to run you into the boards, and they are going to battle and get those pucks. And what I'm seeing too is every single guy that goes in to get that puck, they're not getting pushed around. They're getting in there, they're getting the puck, and there's somebody pushing on them. Bouchard, Nurse, Cece, whatever. And I forget who it was, but Nurse is a massive dude on the blue line for the Edmonton Oilers. And it was a smaller guy. It might have been Reinhardt. But Reinhardt, or no, it was Lundell. I think it was Lundell. And Nurse is trying to muscle Lundell, who's a smaller guy. And Lundell is just like, nope, you're not getting this puck. And that's what Florida does. Every single guy, they get the puck, they dump it in, they're going to hit you, they're going to try to get the puck back. If they don't get the puck back, they're definitely going to back check, going to get their sticks out. They're very good defensively. They're seemingly, while Connor McDavid can go coast to coast in like 3 seconds. I mean, which he literally did in both games multiple times. But there just seems to be like no passing lanes at all. The Panthers have been so good with their stick positioning. Yeah, man, this Panthers team is legit. I mean, everything they do is legitimate. You can't count them out ever, and definitely not now, as we know, because they've won the first 2 games. I'm going to send it back to you because I've been talking for a while, though. First 2 games, thoughts so far?
So what's insane about this is I still don't even think they've gotten to the best part of their game. Like, their forecheck is insane, dude. And I feel like, to your point about McDavid, being able to escape the zone really fast, get coast to coast real fast. Like, because of that, they haven't really applied the pressure on the forecheck and created extra shots and cycling. Like, we haven't seen much of that. Like we saw a little bit of it in game 2 in the third period, which is coincidentally when and how they won. But like in game 1, they were getting outclassed by Edmonton. They were just precise with their shots. To your point, I think Reinhart dumped in. He goes up to the boards, gets it. Almost no look pass to Rodriguez, who just snipes Skinner. It was a beautiful shot.
Rodriguez has been so clutch.
3 goals in 2 games from Evan Rodriguez, of all people. Again,
signing.
Yeah. And again, it's just, well, that's the other thing is their whole team is basically they've been built. Whereas Edmonton is more homegrown. I think there's like 2, maybe 3 draftees, including Sasha Barkov for Florida.
Yep.
I didn't know this. Like it's just key acquisitions. Again, we've praised their trade deadline this year. But like just the right acquisitions at the right time. And this, I just, I can't believe that we haven't seen much of the cycling and the forecheck, and the Panthers are already up 2-0 and have outscored them 6-1 in 2 games.
Another stat for you here, Justin. Nikita Kucherov, David Pastrnak, Mika Zibanejad, Artemi Panarin, Connor McDavid, and Leon Draisaitl have combined for 0. That's 0 5-on-5 goals in 19 games against the Panthers. They are just that good. That's from Baller Stud Hockey.
They close it down in the third period, and so
they're
again
52-0-3 after leading after 2. Yeah,
and I think they caught up. They tied it in like late in the second or early in the third in game 2, and the thing is, like Edmonton had outplayed them up until that point.
They did,
but they didn't put them away. Is the thing they didn't put them away, and if they're within arm's distance going into the third, I would almost every time put money on Florida because they're to everything we've said. They're going to go chase. They're going to go win puck battles. They're going to be gritty. They're going to be in your face. And I really love watching the Florida Panthers play hockey, especially right now. It's great.
And I mean, so you had already mentioned it, but so game 1, a 3-0 shutout to a game where they had 19 shots. The Oilers had almost 40, I think.
Yeah.
Bob has been standing on his head, man. I just love seeing this Bobrovsky, who's been this way now for 2 years, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Just worth every single penny. Everything we've said bad about him in the past is I don't care what else happens from here on out. Like after the cup is over, that man is worth every single penny that he's made, because he has kept this team alive and potentially on the way of winning. I'm not going to jinx it, but and that game 1 was not a good game at all, like you said, and they shut him out. 2 was better. Game 2 is definitely a better game for Florida, but like you said, I don't think they've actually found their game yet, which is scary. Like absolutely scary. And if I'm Edmonton, I know you're going back home. It's going to be electric in Edmonton for sure. The first Stanley Cup Final game in Rogers Place. It's going to be electric. It's going to be loud. But game 2 was kind of a must-win for Edmonton, and they didn't get it done. So, yeah, I guess I'll bring up to what I was talking about with Edmonton. All the praise I gave them for their depth in the Western Conference Finals. Right now, it's just McDavid and Draisaitl. Mm-hmm. And as we know, they've only scored 1 goal in 2 games. 1 goal. And it's just 97-29 because nobody else is doing anything. Mm-hmm. Another stat for you, Darnell Nurse and Cody Ceci, -15 as a unit. -15. So, yeah, that's why I bring that up. Like, talking about Connor McDavid, yeah, he is amazing. He very arguably best player on the planet, but he can't do it himself.
No.
He's got to have somebody to pass to, and if he's not out there with Draisaitl, can't pass to him. And if there's no lanes to pass to, you're just going to skate around, which is what he does. He's so fast. This happened in game 2. He literally is so fast and so gifted, but there's nobody to get the puck to. So he just circled around the net a couple of times, back and forth. And yeah, he's deking people out, but he doesn't have anything. He doesn't have anything to do. And Bob actually has been really tight to the. He's gotten beat. Bob got beat in the Eastern Conference Finals a couple times, real short side of the pipe. In these last 2 games, he's noticeably, from my eyes anyway, been really tight to the post, and especially short side shots. He's like hugging the post. So he watched his tape, and Bob knows where they're trying to go. So, yeah, that's really all I had to say with like Edmonton and their depth. I mean, it's disappeared now, so that's why I'm really disappointed that the Stars didn't win, because I don't want to see a sweep. I don't want that, but I tell you what, it's not. I don't think it's looking great for Edmonton, truly.
So, I mean, I think a lot of that, since I'll pick it up right where you left off. I think a lot of that depends on this. Sasha Barkov hurt last game with an errant elbow, we'll call it, from Dry. We'll see how that comes down. Because I honestly think that's going to be the difference between a sweep and 5 or 6.
Yeah.
If Barkov misses a game, that is Edmonton's chance, because he has been a huge difference maker on silencing McDavid and keeping Dry quiet. Like, he's been all over those guys. So if he misses game 3, I mean, to your point, the building's going to be electric as it is, so they're going to have that going for them. I'm inclined to believe just home ice gets them 1 game, but I think if Florida doesn't have Barkov, I think that gives them the bigger advantage to nab one of those games and extend the series. If Barkey plays, it could get ugly out there.
Well, so I don't want to sound like a know-it-all, because I actually did think initially that Edmonton was going to win game 1. I really thought, coming off of that Stars series where they weren't, they were the underdogs in that, I really thought they were going to come out flying. I said to myself, I think Edmonton's going to win game 1, and then they didn't. They should have. The should have won-o-meter was very far tipped to Edmonton's side, but obviously we know that the should have won-o-meter doesn't mean anything unless you actually get the job done. So then game 2, I said to myself again before, I was like, okay, they're probably going to split now, because that wasn't a good game by Florida. Florida's going to play better, but I think Edmonton learned from their mistakes. Clearly that didn't happen. And initially, I was thinking Florida in 6. So I'll just say that right now. I don't think I'm a know-it-all. I know I said that Edmonton is on the verge of a sweep. Again, I don't want to see a sweep, but man, if Florida wins game 3 in Edmonton, I think that's because honestly, that first goal by Evan Rodriguez in game 2, like, honestly, it was like stake in the heart. It seemed like it was. I know Florida tied it up with that goal, but it was like, okay, they're going to win this game, because like they just were hammering them so hard, man. So really, my point of that is I don't think it's going to be a sweep. I don't want it to be a sweep, but if Florida can win game 3 in Edmonton in an electric building, good luck. Good luck is all I can say.
I guess to echo your point, like I had Florida in 6 as well. But if I ask my heart, what do I want? I've seen a lot of people online saying this has been an unevenly matched series. And, I guess yes, because Florida's won both games, and, you look at the score sheet, it looks that way. I don't see it that way. I a few shots go the right way and we're split, and it's 1-1. Like, Edmonton outplayed Florida in game 1. So I don't know what anybody is talking about. Like,
I mean, Bob just stood on his head. It goes back to puck luck, and Florida has puck luck right now. They're getting the bounces. They're getting timely shots, miscues, like you said, that goal by Evan Rodriguez in game 2, that first one, a simple, like, in the regular season, Bouchard probably would have skated that puck up, and he probably would have dumped it out or something, but he misplayed it, and Rodriguez was right there to put it away. So, and it was such a knuckle puck shot over the shoulder of Skinner, far side. So, it's puck luck, man. It's puck luck, and that's the team that gets the most puck luck usually wins the cup. So It is what it is. But and to that point, not taken away from Edmonton, because they were pretty much last place in November. So they have turned it around and come a long way since Chris Knobloch took over 100%. Again, 97-29 can't do it all. Like the other guys got to show up. So what are we doing? Is your name Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, Willie Nylander, and John Tavares? No, you're the Edmonton Oilers. Be Leon Draisaitl, Connor McDavid, Evan Bouchard, Matthias Ekholm, Darnell Nurse, Vander Kane, Corey Perry. Those guys show up, man. What are you doing?
Ekholm has been like arguably their number 3 this entire playoff run, and he scored their goal. So, a little bit of credit, but
he looked off Connor because there was a 2-on-1 and he looked him off. That's funny.
But like a defenseman shouldn't be your number 3. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he should be that added bonus. Like,
where's Nuge been? Like, there's 4 of the leading scorers in the playoffs are Edmonton Oilers. Like, where are you?
Yeah. So I mean, we'll see. Like, again, I'm inclined to believe this Edmonton team's good enough to take a game or 2 from Florida. We saw it in game 1. They could have and should have won that. They didn't. So I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but like, if they show up, they've got the building. And if Sasha Barkov doesn't play, they take game 3, and they have to. And you said game 2 was kind of a must win. This is absolutely a must win for them.
For sure.
Whether Barkov plays or not, it's a must win.
Well, you already, think of it this way. You already have to win at least 4 of the next 5. So that's already a tough task. You know what I mean? Don't make it 4 of the next 4. You know what I mean? So with that said, I did see this morning, Daily Faceoff showed that Barkov was practicing this morning.
Okay,
so
good.
That's fine. I'm curious of your thoughts on the hits from Draisaitl to Barkov. Do you think it was a good hit? Do you think it deserved more than the 2-minute roughing?
I think they got it right with the penalty. I don't know. I watched it a whole bunch. I believe on the ice, or like the team or the play-by-play team was saying, maybe they bump it up to 5 so they can review it and that it'll come out as 2. Especially if he's playing, I think everything is right. But I think that was the ingredient. Because he didn't come back on the ice. If he doesn't play game 3, then I think that you can't retroactively penalize, but like it should warrant a fine and or a game. Ultimately, I guess, to answer your question in the most direct instead of Justin way possible.
No, that was actually a good answer, I think.
I think that I think they ended up getting it right.
Well, so and initially I saw the hit and I was like, oh dude, that kick him out. That's a misconduct right there. And we had the Warren Foegele knee on knee earlier in the game on E2 Luosterainen, and that was definitely a game. So my initial reaction was that. And then, you always see the worst part of the hit in slow motion because you can go frame by frame and see anything you want to see, right? So at the end of the day, Draisaitl, I think, had his feelings hurt that they were losing and he wasn't doing well. So I think the intent was there to throw something high on Barkov. I think he probably knew that Barkov has had some jaw issues in the past. But I'm saying that like I don't necessarily hate it. It is the Stanley Cup Final. So, again, I said it earlier in the show, the threshold is a little bit higher for what you can and can't get away with. Do I think it's dirty? Absolutely. Am I a little bit saucy that, like, you got your feelings hurt and your team was losing and you've been sucking, so you're going to throw a cheap shot? Like, okay, bud. But I absolutely don't want to see him get suspended because I would rather the Florida Panthers beat you with all of your guys on the ice and they prove that you suck and they beat you anyway. I don't want your guy to be out and like, oh, if he didn't get suspended, then we would have won. Like, I don't want any of that. If Florida's going to win, I want them to beat the Edmonton Oilers with everybody on the ice, McDavid, Draisaitl, all those guys healthy and playing. So my long-winded answer, I think they probably got it right with a 2. I do think you should get fined for something like that, though. Like, again, he's making $10 million or whatever he's making, like $8 million. Fine him the highest allowable by the CBA, which is probably like $5,000 or something like that. It's a dirty hit. It's a cheap shot for sure. Suspend, no. Fine, yeah, because that's bullcrap, man. I mean, if Catchup did that, he definitely would have got fined. You know, what
that's
I mean?
a good point
because of reputation.
Yeah,
so.
that's a great point. I didn't even take that into account. I want to hone in on this a little bit. I don't know if there's much conversation here, but I do want to echo a point that you said that, this being the Stanley Cup, we go on, we went on and on early in the playoffs and more specifically in the regular season. Like, we don't mind a little bit of grit, a little bit of dirt, but like, if you're not being a little bit dirty, do you really want to win? You know what I mean? Like, especially now, he was penalized for it. So to me, it shows that yes, his feelings are hurt, like you said, but he wants to win. So he's going to do what it takes to try and win. Again, it is dirty. You don't like it, but like, I like that he wants to win that bad. It's a very delicate balance.
No, I totally get what you're saying. At least there's one Canadian team that wants to win, and they're at least showing that. So I'll give them their props. It's obviously the western end of Canada, not the eastern side, because they definitely don't want to win, no matter how much money they're making. So you said you thought initially Florida in 6 as well, correct?
Yeah, my heart wants it to go the distance because I've enjoyed the hockey. I've really enjoyed both games. So I'd like to see them play 7 just cuz. But the way it's going, it feels like at best Edmonton draws it out to 6. And I feel like they're going to have to get a lot of puck luck to get there. Like, Florida's just playing really well.
I mean, and what's funny, I guess I'll close out my final point on this with Bob. I mean, he's been standing on his head, but there's been many of times in both these first 2 games where he's been kind of out of position. He fell down a few times. He's lost his stick a bunch. So what's wild to me, well, Panthers, but what's crazy to me is how out of position he has been, and yet he is stopping everything that goes his way. And the one that went in by Ekholm was such a beach ball, really. I think it got tipped by somebody and it just trickled through. So that was kind of like, oh man, Bob, you did all this, and then you got beat by a beach ball. But I mean, truly, again, he's amazing, absolutely amazing. If here's my question to you, Justin, taking the whole playoffs into consideration, if you were to pick a Conn Smythe winner right now, who do you think is? Let's not say but who do you think is in the front running of Conn Smythe winner?
Man, like,
and let's say that it doesn't. Let's say for this question, because we're 2 games in, it doesn't necessarily go to whoever wins. So I know we both picked the Panthers, but it doesn't necessarily have to be a Panther that wins the Conn Smythe. It has happened in the past where the winning team did not get the Conn Smythe as well. So we'll just say
I hate to like kind of jump on what you were just talking about, but the fact that they've won these first 2 games screams Bob. Like, Bob has been on fire this playoffs. Yeah. And I mean, I think there was a game against Boston where he looked bad, but other than that, like, he's pretty much been lights out. And to your point, so far in this series, a lot of the chances, again, due to the speed of the Oilers, have been breakaways. Like, it's not like he's just stopping shots. Like, he's stopping the best player in the game on a breakaway, like front and center. So he's stoning the best player in the game and the second best player in the game several times. So like, yeah, I feel like I'm accidentally stealing your answer based on what you were talking about before, but like, I probably would have answered this regardless. Probably would have thrown more behind it, but At right now, to answer your question, it feels like Bob.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely where I was going to go. If Florida does win, I think you have to give it to Bob. Just again for everything that's happened over the last 2 years, where the goalie that he was and the goalie that he turned himself back into, and even better than what he was in the last time he won a Vezina trophy. I think you'd have to give it to Bob. I could also see a guy like Evan Rodriguez getting it. Just for his clutch moments.
Mm-hmm.
If Edmonton won, I could see a guy like Evan Bouchard getting it for his clutch moments. I honestly don't think if Edmonton won, unless McDavid goes nuclear, I couldn't see him getting it because I don't think he's done anything worth it, honestly. Which actually, that I know we're going to be done with the Stanley Cup Finals talk. That's what I was going to say. I forgot what I was going to say. In the Western Conference Finals, McDavid had a plethora of assists. I don't have the number in front of me, but he was still quiet. McDavid has not really shown up this playoffs. And what I was going to say is, like, if McDavid goes nuclear, Florida is in trouble. And that's why I was initially picking Edmonton to win game 1, because I thought McDavid was going to show up and go nuclear all over everybody. It's like we're still kind of waiting for that. Nothing's happening. He's not very McDavid-like, truly, in the sense of production. So, but I will say that, like, if he finds a way to go nuclear, that's where we get our 6th or 7th game in this series.
Can I ask you this then?
Sure.
If production for him stays the same, now granted, he's in the Cup Final, so like he's already got Mustache Matthews beat.
Yes.
But are we treating him the same? You know, like for getting to the final but not showing up and ghosting?
I think so. I'd say so. Yeah. I mean, he's making a boatload of money. You know, again, you can only do so much, but at the same time, we look at a player like Sidney Crosby. He's the captain. He produces, but also he always seems to find a way to find the guy that's not supposed to be there in that spot. Crosby finds a lane to get a pass to a guy that there is no lane to. So, you know what I mean? Like, so I think so. You know, like, yes, I'm saying McDavid, you can't do it all on your own. I get that. But there's other elite players that find a way. Johnny Taves was known for that as well, you know. So, yeah, I think we would have to think the same way. Like, you didn't show up, dude. You went ghost.
I think to your point, like, he doesn't even have to go nuclear, but like if you want to be in that Crosby conversation, if you want to be in that Ovi conversation, you want to be in that even bigger conversation, the Gretzkys and you know, the Lemieux. You got to put this team on your back, man. You know, if you don't win the cup, you do have to produce. Like, you have to show that you want it and that it's not going to be your fault if you lose. You know what I mean? I got all these points. I got X amount of points. I got X amount of goals. You know, I won these games. And sure, you may not approach it that way, but that has to be the argument that guys like you and I can say on a podcast like this.
Yeah. Just finish. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, like, McDavid just has to do the thing. Like, he has to be McDavid. And again, does he have to win the cup? I don't think so. But if he loses the cup in the manner that he's losing the cup right now, then I've got questions.
That's fair. And to just that same point as my last point, I'd still put him in a tier above Matthews, because you can at least see that he's playing his butt off.
Yes.
You can at least see that he's trying to do something. He's just not making it. He's just not finishing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if that happened, I would still put him in a tier above where Matthews is at, because, you know, that guy doesn't care anyway, no matter what. Guy only cares about his golf score. So anyway, that is our We both picked Panthers in 6. I know we're 2 games in, so like, oh, of course you would.
Yeah.
But we said
I
6.
would have regardless. Yeah.
It's 6. I mean, honestly, that's what I was going to pick initially. Let's hey, the PWHL crowned their first Walter Cup champion, and wouldn't you know it, it's Minnesota. Stick taps, ladies. PWHL Minnesota, the first Walter Cup champions. We did say that they were a wagon ever since the beginning. So I did not watch, truthfully. I've only been watching NHL when I can. So I'm gonna have to go back and see if it's still up on the YouTube so I can at least see the final game or something. But it went to 5, didn't it?
It did. And
Yeah.
I'll say this. I actually managed to hop in towards the end of the Toronto Minnesota series and was able to catch like the tail end and able to watch the entire final. Here's the difference in the teams. Minnesota was a wagon. They were a great team, but Boston was gritty and tough and refused to quit. That was the difference. That was the dynamic of the final. And that's why it ended up going. If you just look at stats, really, Minnesota should have wiped the floor with them. But Erin Frankel was just absolutely bonkers in the final. She didn't let much past her. She kept them in like every game. And game 4 specifically went, I think, double overtime, 1-0 in double overtime, Joe. Like,
I'm just looking at the box score right now.
It's just insane. Wow. And they there was a goal towards the end of the middle of the second overtime that Minnesota scored. It got waved off. So Minnesota thought they had won the cup in game 4, and they're celebrating and throwing sticks and gloves and whatnot. And because they were on home ice for that. And it gets waved off ultimately. And then a minute later, Boston scores the dagger, 1-0. The series had everything. Great goal play.
Well, I just love that it went. I just love that it went to all 5 games in the first year of the Walter Cup. I think that's just really, really awesome for not only the sport but also for the league in itself. That we were talking about. Obviously the cup final right now. And like, we'd love to see a game 7 just cause like, a game 7 to decide the Stanley Cup. That's what you want. That's what you grow up as a kid, pretending to do scenarios where you're winning that, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It really was magical. And then to watch afterwards, like they get to pass the Walter Cup around, like all the ceremonies, like it really was emotional. Like all the women were emotional for sure. I was emotional. Like I didn't bust out crying or anything, but I definitely welled up. Like it was emotional to see like this is a lifelong dream for them too, that they were able to like will into existence. And it was it was really a magical night. And it's really sad that Minnesota specifically is really trying to roll all of that away, but more on that as we get there. But they were just the better team ultimately is what it was. They had the goal scorers that were able to, like we said about McDavid, just put the team on their back and get the job done, because that's what it's about. Get the job done, score some goals, and lead this team to victory. And that's what they did.
I mean, a couple of my favorites there: Taylor Heisey, number 1 overall. Grace Sumwinkle. I mean, I'm just
Sophie Jakes was incredible, and Kava. I forget her first name, unfortunately. Michalina Kava.
I was just looking at that too, and I closed it out.
I think her number's 9, I think, but she was outstanding in the entire series. But Sophie Jakes was great as well. To your point, Heisey showed up. Like she didn't win every game. She didn't score every game. She wasn't on the scoreboard every game, but she was visibly a team leader. Zumwinkle was terrific as well. Like all their stars showed up, and that's what you got to do. You got to show up, and you got to put in the work every shift.
So we always talk about on this show. You got to show up. You got to show up. So yeah, that's and I didn't see. I imagine. Have you seen when the season 2 starts? Is it going to be September training camp?
November. Yeah, I guess training camp will probably be September.
I know they just had the draft, the second draft.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yep.
So that's already that's good to see that's moving along.
Mid to late November is when the actual season's going to start. So they're going to do 30 games next year, as opposed to, I think they did 24. So they're tacking on another 6 games for each team, which that's a good sign. That's another chance for some revenue. I hope. Really, as far as attendance went, Boston and New York were kind of like the tail end as far as attendance went. Everybody else really didn't have attendance problems. It's more on the arenas that they played in. Like it was outside of town for both of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So hopefully
they were playing in upstate New York, weren't they?
So
or Connecticut. They were playing Connecticut.
They were playing Connecticut. Yeah. Some of the games got played in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and a couple games got played in UBS. I think is the Isles Arena, right? UBS or USB or whatever it is. And there was one other spot that they played, and then Boston played in Songus Center, and then something else that was just outside of town as well. So like those games that weren't in town were hard to get people to go to.
Yeah.
And so I hope they can iron that out. I think I saw that they're going to be doing a lot more neutral site games next year too, which I hope re-includes the Rock again. I know that they did really well at the Rock, Pittsburgh, Detroit. I hope Cap One gets one. I'd love to go see PWHL play in Cap One. But yeah, like next season is exciting. They even announced in August we'll have the team brands and team names and stuff in August. So that next level, it's going to have fan involvement, which iffy on, because if you watch the YouTube chat at all, the YouTube chat wants New York to be called the Pizza Rats, which is fun, like as far as hey, let's call ourselves that, but like having that be official marketing branding, I hate it.
Well, that's like if you want to do like a fan voting thing, much like Utah is right now for the name of what they're going to have, you spoon feed. This is what you can pick on.
Yes.
Because if you pick any of these, this is what we're good with any of these. Just hey, throw out your random suggestions, and we'll vote on it. Like that's where Pizza Rats come from. So not really a hockey team name. Do you think so? 30 games. That's a 6-game increase. If I did my math correctly, where do you think, this is kind of just a random question. Do you have like a sweet spot where you think you'd like to see the league have for their normal regular season to get to?
I think ultimately, and this kind of goes to my thoughts on NHL as well. Although I will say, like an 82 game schedule for NHL doesn't feel as arduous as the 82 game schedule in NBA. Like it's useless and pitiful for the 82 game schedule in the NBA. But like that 40, 42 number feels right. Like I feel like I guess it all kind of depends on money too. Like if they're selling out every game and they can ultimately get up to that 82, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
But I think a sweet spot would be in that somewhere low end 40, high end 50 would be awesome, because that's a good solid season of hockey where you're probably playing a couple games a week and you're not like really overdoing it. You're not oversaturating, but it's a good amount of hockey being played that I can watch for free on YouTube, hopefully.
Yes. Yeah, I was thinking 50 was the number in my head. I think 50 is a good solid number, because then we get the season done by, at the latest, May. Because, I mean, again, I love Stanley Cup Final hockey, but it's mid-June right now, and there's no reason to be watching hockey right now. There's no reason for it.
No.
There's no reason for it. Obviously, that's scheduled breaks and all that stuff, that plays into that too. But, I mean, even think about it when – the next couple of years when the NHL has their breaks for the Four Nations face-off break, the All-Star break, the Olympic break, all that stuff. That's time when PWHL could be playing. So if they had those, extra scheduled games, that's where they're playing during the All-Star break. They're playing during the Olympic break, so on and so forth, that kind of stuff. But that's a whole other conversation to have. Do you want to get into the speculation of PWHL Minnesota?
So I'll
they
say
win the cup, and then this is what I know, and you can correct me from what you've heard, or I guess add in your insight. What I heard from Frank Saravalli this morning on Daily Faceoff was, so Minnesota wins the cup, and then the GM gets fired, and I apologize, I'm misplacing her name right now. I had it written down, but I don't know where it's at. She gets fired, and essentially she had three options. One, she can resign, or two, she can be quiet about it and then just let things happen as it was supposed to be. Or three, put out a statement of, I forget what the third thing was that I heard. So I know this is not really a quote. I'm just saying that I heard this from Frank Saravalli, and I'm not quoting him properly either. So don't throw fire at Frank Saravalli. He has the real story. I only have tidbits of the story. What did you hear? No, I'll just say I think it's crap that the league owns all of the teams, and I wish the owners of the teams owned them outright, so then the owners can make decisions. I don't think the league should be making decisions about GMs of teams. That's where I'll stand on that.
So from what I understand, there was an assessment earlier on in the season on how she was doing at her job. And I don't know how you don't reevaluate it after the team wins the first cup. Like, how do you not?
You won the inaugural cup. Like, the team you put together won the inaugural Walter Cup. That's pretty good, I'd say.
Yeah. And, they were.
That buys you a couple of years,
Yeah. They were incredible at the top of the year. They had like a mini slump in the middle of the year. They were good enough to get back into the playoffs. I don't think they were ever even out of the playoffs. So here's my tinfoil cap. I thought this immediately throughout the draft. Today is the 12th. So the draft was 2 nights ago. There's a player by the name of Britta Curl, who is quite the controversial player. I'll say this, like, the controversy lies in her liking some far right tweets, and transphobic, homophobic, and racist tweets, and being kind of adjacent to those kind of things. So Minnesota drafts her. Not only do they draft her in the second round. So, like, again, there's only six teams. So, like, I think maybe she came out to at worst 8th overall. I think the outcry would have been a lot less if she gets drafted later in the draft, like kind of as a sneak. But so there was a lot of fan favorites that weren't technically on the team. Like they had like these contracts that let them stay in school. They weren't officially on the roster. The name was like right there and now it's gone. But she played 14 games for them. She ends up, I think, getting drafted by Boston. Long story short, is my tinfoil hat theory is that the league wanted Minnesota to draft Britta Curl, who went to Wisconsin. And again, my tinfoil hat theory, I have nothing to base this on other than the timing. The GM disagreed and did not want to bring this player into this very inclusive league.
Yeah.
And they butted heads and they had to part ways. Again, I have nothing to back that on. That is purely speculation based on timing. I hate putting it out there, but that is just what it looks like from the naked eye to anybody who's kind of close to the situation.
I guess I'm really mostly curious of why didn't this come out earlier?
It's been widely known is the crazy part. It's been widely known about this player. And, this was the speculation going in. A lot of the people were like, I hope she does not get drafted. Wow. I hope people stay away from her. And they didn't. So the former GM of Minnesota is widely popular in the locker room and via fans. Like the fans really liked her. So that was Minnesota's first strike, and again, I guess it's the league, to your point. But then they throw out all the draft plans is part two here. All the draft plans get thrown out the window, and they just kind of flew by the seat on their pants draft night, including drafting Britta Curl.
Interesting.
Yeah. So again, it's very tinfoil hatty, and this is just what I've been able to piece together between YouTube chat, the PWHL Discord that I'm in. Ultimately, it's just bad optics, and I don't like any of it. And I don't know if Minnesota's trying to become like the villain of the league, but I don't. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can back them.
Yeah, I mean, the only games that I want to play is hockey. That's the only ones that I want to watch. So I don't know about those other games, but obviously, don't agree with any of that. So I guess we'll just wait and find out more details if they're going to be released. But now I kind of got a sour taste in my mouth about Minnesota winning the cup.
Right? That's what I'm saying. Is like. They had this huge sweep of like upswell of support, and like they seem content to just kind of throw it all away in a week. And again,
I feel like we should have handled this after draft night. 6 months ago would have been a much better time to handle this.
Yeah, and so I also want to put this out there because I do think second chances are important. I'm completely willing to be open to Britta Curl showing that she isn't that person anymore, that she's grown.
I'm open to that.
So,
was that 2011? Was that in 2010? When was it? Because,
at max 4 years ago, like a lot of this is really recent. Yeah.
Hey, I mean, I'm not going to throw stones at anybody. I've done things in the past I'm not proud of as a human, but I've changed and learned from my mistakes. You know what I mean? So people can learn and change and do better, but you got to do better.
You got to do better is the thing. Yeah. So again, I don't know that I can openly support that program. Again, I'm willing to hear her out. And I'm willing for her to do the work to try to be better, but this is a very inclusive league, man, and it's my favorite part of it is that YouTube chat being like hockey is for everyone. Like we don't want this to be NHL part 2, man. Like they really have been very inclusive, and it really does seem to be hammering home the thing that NHL is missing desperately is hockey is for everyone, Marcus. So don't pee that away.
Well, let's shift over to another Minnesota squad that we love, and that's Minnesota Wild. Announced that they are going to rebrand in 2025 to the North Star colors. So they're taking that reverse retro, and that's going to be the rebrand, and I cannot wait for that. That is going to be just chef's kiss. Can't wait for that. I do wish, man. I mean, the whole thing with the shortened seasons and COVID and all that and this and that, but I hate the sponsors on the jerseys. I absolutely hate it. Like you look at Florida's jersey, they have LaCroix up on the right shoulder, so it just looks so jammed packed when you see the A or the C on the left chest, plus the Stanley Cup logo is just so jammed up tight in there. I don't like it. Yeah, I'm hoping because the debt from the players to the owners should be paid off, I think, now or by, I forget the exact date. It should be pretty soon that they've paid the debts off. I'm hoping that teams can get rid of those sponsors and just on the jerseys and make it like a permanent sponsor in the arena or something like that. Let's get it off the jerseys, clean up the jerseys, man. Like, I don't like it. I don't like it at all.
Or find a better way to do it. Like if it has to be done, put
it on the sleeve or something, or exactly. on the back quadrant if you will, on the low by the breezers or something, you know?
Because I am definitely team. I understand why you have to do it. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But when you get to
I like money. I like money too. I get it.
but like to your point, like when you're watching the final and I'm watching Sasha Barkov and he's got LaCroix, he's got C, he's got Stanley Cup. It's like, whoa, that's too much.
A lot. And Florida already has a jammed sweater anyway, with the cat on the sleeve, the flag on the sleeve. It's already jammed up in there. So
very much so. But like they're not the I'll say this. I will miss Minnesota's away sweaters, the white with the red number. I will miss those. Like the home sweater is I could always take or leave. I did like the darker green. I thought that was nice. But the North Stars color scheme is just better. It's just a better look. And I like the nod, you know, it feels like the Dallas Stars went on to become something different anyway. Let's give the Minnesota North Star stuff back to Minnesota. Like this kind of feels like that's what we're doing, right?
Why not? It was also announced that this year the Anaheim Ducks and the LA Kings are going to rebrand retro to the early 90s with a fresh, so 90s with a fresh look. So we're definitely getting the hockey mask, the Duck hockey mask back. I hope we go full on purple again, purple and green. Give me the Paul Karias, give me the Teemu Solanis. LA Kings, I don't give a crap about what they do. Truly, I mean, I don't care.
You got to do the Gretzky's. I feel like the Gretzky's. I've seen people like going to bat for the crown. I never liked the crown. I feel like the crest that they have now is entirely too busy. The Gretzky's were iconic, and like they had the Raiders color scheme, like everything about it just worked to me. So
I would be okay if they went. Well, I'm going to use another Minnesota reference. If they went to the Viking colors, purple and yellow, I think that'd be pretty cool for the LA Kings to do. Why not? Yeah. We don't have enough purple in the league, or enough yellow. Like
very true.
Let's do something different other than black and gray.
Yeah, I'm for it. All right. I want to throw this last thing out here.
Yeah.
Because it wouldn't be the BarnChirpers Hockey Podcast if I didn't throw my homer take out there, brother. I'm a sad Devils fan, and I've had some time to reflect. The Devils have hired Sheldon Keefe as their new head coach. And look, ultimately, I'm right there with you. That was my initial takeaway was sigh. Why? There could have been anybody we could have taken. Why are we hiring the guy who was losing in Toronto? My takeaway now is I'm not necessarily excited, but I'm okay with this hire because I don't know how much of the problem in Toronto was him and how much of it was his players just not playing. You know, like we chirp them a lot, but there was an attitude of, I don't care that we're in the playoffs. And how is that possible? You're in the NHL playoffs and don't care.
I mean, I understand your take, and like I get that. I don't dislike the hiring of Sheldon Keefe because he comes from Toronto. I dislike it because I just feel like Sheldon Keefe has no cojones. Like in the playoffs, oh well, I mean, we just we're losing, you know, we're doing pretty good, but he's got no cojones to me, man. Like he's got no fire. And that's why I don't like it as a signing for the Devils. Cause I feel like the Devils, those young kids, young core, they need somebody with fire to like light that match underneath their butts to get them going. I like Lindy Ruff as a coach, but I don't think he's that type of coach either. I don't think he's that like, ugh, you need another Rod Brendamore, but one that can win. But honestly, I thought Jay Woodcroft would have been a good coach for the Devils. They could have hired Craig Berube. He would have been a great coach for them. It's not. I don't necessarily dislike Sheldon Keefe I don't dislike him because he came from Toronto. I don't even necessarily dislike the person. I just don't think he has any fire. So like, where's the oomph, buddy? That's what I needed for a team, and I just don't think he has it. But prove me wrong. I love to be proved wrong. So
yeah,
for your sake, I hope I'm wrong.
I have to take it with a grain of salt, because otherwise I will be miserable all summer.
We don't want that. We don't want that.
I
Actually,
have to be okay with it.
I do have one more thing, even though Corey's not going to listen to this, but I can put that out into the ether. On this day of recording, June 12th, the date is 2024, but on June 12th, 2010, Showtime Patty Kane crushed the hopes and dreams of all of Philly and Pennsylvania when he scored an OT to win the Stanley Cup for the Chicago Blackhawks against the Philadelphia Flyers. So stick tags to you, Showtime Patty Kane, for 14 years ago winning the Stanley Cup on Philly home ice, by the way. So that was probably rough getting out of that arena that night, I imagine.
Love it.
Anyways, let's get out of here. We'll be back.
Yes.
Hey, you know what? We might be back next week if it's a sweep, because
Yeah,
game
right?
4 is Saturday. So who knows? We might be back. And then, you know to follow us at BarnChirpers Pod all over the internet. Thanks for listening and hanging out with us and all that good stuff. So until then, play to the whistle, keep your head up, stick taps and sellies, boys. Clap it up.
Yeah. Boom.